Joe Biden's first week back at work after a holiday, and the Donald Trump legal saga just rolls along, but it doesn't seem to be affecting his polls. If it is doing anything, it's giving him more popularity. Joining me now is Nikki Schwab, senior US political reporter at thedailymail.com. Good morning, our time, Nikki. Great to have you on the program. We saw Joe Biden there, nice and relaxed, sunglasses on, new jobs figures.
That's right. He definitely was out today in the Rose Garden, a sunny, beautiful day here in Washington, D.C., and sort of championed those job numbers and, tell the American people that Bidenomics is indeed working. So if you talk to the Republicans, they point to that, 3.8% unemployment number, and they see that as a bad thing, a potential sign of a recession, and also a potential door opening for them to win back the White House in 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's hotting up. I know we're a fair way away from the actual election, but there's so much happening. Let's have a look at Donald Trump. Even the whole idea of making millions and millions of dollars of the merchandise from that mugshot right there.
That's right. And within, I think, about 4 days, his campaign raised a whopping $10 million in political donations from the selling of all the mugshot swag. There are T-shirts. I think there's like phone cases. Never surrender. A lot of it says. So they're definitely spinning this to be a very good thing, a beneficial thing to the campaign. But if you look at a lot of our reporting, you see that his next 14 months as he runs for president, potentially if he wins the GOP primary, is going to be spending a lot of time dealing with these 4 indictments. So, that is eventually probably going to hurt him politically, maybe. But right now, it seems like the Republican Party is very behind his back.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? We use the term sugar hits and popularity spikes throughout the course of the legal dramas. It's almost like a mini-series that we're watching in front of our own eyes. But it's very real.
Truly.
The story's very real.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's crazy to see, his poll numbers keep on, getting a bounce anytime he's indicted, anytime, he has a court appearance. And if you look at the polls coming out of last week's debate, you saw some movement among, who might take second place, but Trump is still at the very top of this roster of candidates.
It's an interesting discussion, isn't it? Because many of the experts in the United States will say that Donald Trump looks likely to be the Republican to go up against Joe Biden, but he's probably one of the least likely to beat Joe Biden. If there was another Republican in place, the chances would be way better for the Republicans to get back into power.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, when you look at the numbers with, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, in the general election, they tend to pull a lot stronger because, Trump already lost to Biden once. And you have to wonder, does he somehow expand his base in a general election? Does he bring on independents? Does he bring back, some suburban women? And I don't see that answer being yes. I think it would be very hard for him to potentially beat Biden. That being said, if you look at, Vivek Ramaswamy, if you look at DeSantis, they're able to potentially, at least pull over those independents, those suburban women we often talk about in American politics that could potentially, shift it over and have a Republican win the White House again.
You mentioned Vivek Ramaswamy there. He's having problems with the singer Eminem. Tell me more. What's going on there?
Yes, this was a Daily Mail exclusive. So Vivek Ramaswamy actually is a longtime fan of the rapper Eminem. He actually used to, pretend to be a rapper whenever he was a college student, and he went by the rapper named Vivek, and he would do libertarian raps. But he also just really loved Eminem. And so at the Iowa State Fair last month, trying to get the attention of a sort of a breakfast audience, he started rapping to Eminem. Now, I think it was about 11 days later, the record industry contact messaged Vivek's campaign and basically said, "I'm sorry, but Marshall Mathers, the rapper, he no longer wants you to perform his music, and so the license has been pulled."
That's one. That could be one of the subplots of the larger Netflix series. That one, that's quite good. And then you got a soundtrack behind it. But let's have a look at what's happening in Georgia, because during the week, Donald Trump, we worked out he's not going to face court, will not be in the court itself.
That's correct. He's not going to be at this next court date, but we did find out this week that proceedings will be televised. So as you talk about, this all sort of being like a soap opera, well, we will be able to see what happens inside this Georgia courtroom. And that also means, there's very prominent political figures that have been ensnared in this as well. Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows, if Mark Meadows is unsuccessful with getting he wants to move his case up to federal court. So, it's going to be this reality show for, a number of weeks. And it will be around the Republican primary time. So that's another sort of layer of complication.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, finally, Joe Biden, he's come back. He looks nice and relaxed. Obviously, people bring up his age often, but apart from that, he just seems to be just tripping along.
Yeah, so he even had a gaffe today. I mean, he spoke for, I think, a matter of maybe 13 minutes. And when he was talking about the unemployment rate, he meant to say that, it's been consistently under 4% for a number of months and, championing that number. And he slipped and said it was 14%. And so, again, that will, create these questions about his capacity to be not only president now at age 80, but going on into the future, into a second term for another 4 years. And you see a lot of presidential candidates on the right. Nikki Haley comes to mind, who has basically said, like, Kamala Harris is going to be the next U.S. president, and that's who you'd be voting for if you're voting for Biden for a second term.
Lastly, I know that was going to be my final question, but just layering that question, because you're based in Washington and politics is your game. What I hear a lot of for those that are around Joe Biden is that when it comes to group discussions like smaller negotiation, that is when he's at his peak. In front of microphones, in front of people, has never been a strong point for him.
That is absolutely true. I've heard that as well. And I think that you have to think about the fact that he had a childhood stutter that he recovered from. And you can tell when he's tired, it comes back a bit. And so, yes, indeed, like I do think those sort of behind closed door discussions are where he's really with it. I've heard a number of sources say that since he, became president. And I guess the problem with that is that it doesn't help him politically for, his sort of best work to be behind closed doors.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about the bright lights sometimes, isn't it, Nikki? It's great to have you on the show. Love to get you on again soon.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.